Hi YouTube, I'm going to do my first ever Game of Thrones video. Not very original, there's lots of them about, but as I absolutely love the series and the books, I thought I ought to. So if you haven't read Feast for Crows, switch off now because there will be spoilers. Feast for Crows is the fourth book, and it's the least popular one. Has nothing about Daenerys, nothing about Jon, or at least very little. Tyrion's not in it. But I think it's fantastic because we get to see Cersei's point of view for the first time. We get to look inside her head for the first time, and it is not pretty. In the show, they've made Cersei nicer. Now, just imagine that. She's bad enough in the show. In the book, she's a lot worse. Vindictive, paranoid, not trusting anyone who's not a Lannister, and even out of the Lannisters, she only trusts the ones who obey her. I think it's one of the best books. For a start, the title makes much more sense than any of the others. Like, say, Storm of Swords. Or you could say that about all of them. Game of Thrones, you could say that would be a good enough title for all of them, but Feast for Crows specifically means the aftermath of battle, or in this case, the aftermath of civil war. Just like crows feast on corpses, in this book, people take advantage of the aftermath of civil war. And this is where Bronn comes in. He has married Lolis Stokeworth, who's been raped 50 times and has a bastard child during the riots at King's Landing. He was allowed to marry her. He wouldn't normally be, but Cersei wanted to make sure he didn't champion Tyrion in a trial by combat. And then Cersei makes things worse. All Bronn does is name the bastard child Tyrion. Well, very cheeky. Obviously, a middle finger up for Cersei, but ultimately honest. But what does she do? She gets the husband of Lolis's older sister, the heir to Castle Stokeworth, and for perspective, Castle Stokeworth is right outside King's Landing, and it's one of only 2 castles that supplied King's Landing with food when they were cut off from the rest of the country. So it's very important strategically. And the other castle that supplied King's Landing was Castle Rosby, and the Lord of Rosby dies in this book, and he has so much inheritance that Cersei tries to steal it. And the Stokeworths have a very good claim to Castle Rosby. So, anyway, Balon Birch is the husband of Lys Stokeworth, who is the heir. The present Lady Stokeworth is Tanda, the mother, and she has a broken hip because someone didn't strap her into the saddle properly. Wonder whose idea that was. Cersei begs Felice subtly to assassinate Bronn, arrange for an accident, but instead, her husband Balon Birch, who is a knight and honourable, challenges him to a duel. Bronn accepts and promptly kills the horse. Balon Birch's legs are shattered, and he confesses that Cersei put him up to it in exchange for a quick end. Felice flees to Cersei, and she hands her over to Qyburn for experimentation. So the more Cersei meddles, the worse she makes things for herself. That's one blunder, the Bronn blunder, but we get to see more. She refuses to pay back the loans to the Bank of Bravos until the war's over. So they fund Stannis' cause. And she also cancels the debt to the Faith. They owe them nearly 1 million gold dragons, I believe. They agree to forget about the debt, but in exchange for their own army and their own courts, which the Targaryens fought very hard to end. The Warriors' Sons, the Poor Sons, the Sparrow Movement, an armed Faith of the Seven. You don't break your monopoly on force if you're in charge. This is crazy. So, she's cancelled a lot of debt. That's not going to do them much good. The blunders don't end there, though. She appoints a new Master of Ships, Orain Waters, who'd previously been on Stannis' side, switched sides after the Battle of Blackwater, so that should have warned her. He builds a very expensive new fleet, because in the books, the Lannister fleet was totally destroyed at the Battle of Blackwater. It was used as bait. So he rebuilds the Lannister navy, and then at the end of the books, he takes it off. God knows where. Some say to Stannis, some say he's becoming a pirate. So, all in all, Cersei is a terrible politician. Other good things about the book, we get to see Qyburne's horrific experiments. Not up close, but we hear them mentioned now and then. He really is a Frankenstein character. Also, we see the contrast between Loras Tyrell and Jaime Lannister. Loras Tyrell is still supremely confident. He captures Dragonstone from Stannis, but in the most unsubtle way imaginable. Just blunders in. Manages to take it, but not before being shot with crossbow bolts and almost killed with boiling oil. But then contrast that with Jaime, who's sworn not to wage war on the Tullys or the Starks. He manages to capture Riverrun bloodlessly by threatening to catapult Edmure Tully's child. And he releases Edmure. Uses him because he's more pliable than the Blackfish. Not all of it's good. There's a pretty dull storyline of Sam making his way from the wall to Old Town. It is significant. There are very good plot lines, but it's not as exciting. But yeah, I understand. People want the North, they want Daenerys, they want Jon, and I'm sure if George R. R. Martin could have planned it properly, he would have had more characters in there, but the other option was to delay the books, and people had already been waiting 5 years since Storm of Swords for a new book, so I'm sure people in the long run prefer it that way. I know I did. Anyway, that's enough for now. I might do another Game of Thrones video. I'll see how many views I get. All welcome, of course. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.